because we develop our own image through the literature we write about what we believe in. So, and then from this Sira literature, you do, and this is about 14th, 15th century, when you first see a subgenre which is called Azwajun Nabi, wives of the Prophet. Now, so it would seem, now first, here, when it is Maghazi, this community is young and it still needs to fight off others who might just swallow it up as a sect, or annihilate it. So I think that's where we have the Maghazi literature, when it's still very young and trying to define itself and establish itself as a separate community, right? Then, when it has established itself as its identity, it's not going to go anywhere. It's not going to get eaten up by any of the other competing, believing groups or non-believing groups. Then it starts. It has the time to then think about the symbol. Who is the symbol? What is the image for the community? It is the Prophet. Yes.
When did the Sira literature show up?
Okay, so this, I believe, is the 8th century. Okay? And so, so this would be 7th century. Ibn Hisham is, I think, so this is the 8th century. And then we come to maybe 13th or 14th century when we see a book written by a man, but actually written very well.
What is surprise?
The thing is, no. It's like J.S. Mill. Was it John Stuart Mill who wrote on the liberation of women? What was the title of that book? That was considered the first feminist literature in the English language. Okay? So I've forgotten now my feminism. Or it's just become so much a part of me, I don't need to know the literature anymore. But anyway, so it's usually the first people,
Was it Mary Wollstonecraft first?
No, I think he was before her. And Wollstonecraft,
Wollstonecraft was earlier.
Is he earlier? Okay, so I stand corrected. But anyway, he did write a very good book about the liberation. But I thought she was doing more, was she doing a feminist liberation thing? Now we're going on.
Vindication of the Rights of Women by Mary Wollstonecraft, late 18th century, and I think John Stuart Mill was mid-19th century.
Okay.
He's considered the first man to write extensively on the subject.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right. So here, anyway, this person, and then it occurred to me that if we are looking, maybe if we could, some of us who are interested in comparative studies, they could look at when do the first biographies of females in other literatures come up. And I would not be surprised if Muslims were earlier than others, because in many ways they did start certain things early. The right of divorce for women. Muslim women have had it for 14th century, so that's pretty good. From its inception. So anyway, so we get the literature wives of the Prophet, and I think at this point then the issue of women's rights comes up. Now community is a time when it's gone intra-community. Okay? So it's looking at itself, looking inward, and especially thinking about gender relations. So this is inter-community. Do you understand what I'm... Mm-hmm. Inter-community. Muslims against others. And then this is sort of, I guess, the first step of establishing their identity, and this is then now intra-community. And the most important issue is gender relations. So you get the literature, wives of the Prophet, and so each of the wives gets a chapter. Now, these books, I don't know, most of them are in Arabic and they haven't been translated. And then in the 20th century, or maybe even in the 20th century, and I couldn't get a hold of that. That was actually what I could tell, the first full biography of Khadija is written by an Indian scholar, again a man. And of course, because women did not have access to religious education in the same way. And then you get biography of Khadija. Okay. Now, you know, the interesting thing is that in English, you have a whole book on Aisha. You don't have one on Khadija, written by a scholar, right? I forget her name now.
Denise Mulder,
Yes.
Navi Abbott.
Hmm?
Two. The Navi Abbott one was older and then Denise
Right.
Mulder.
But this one, a very full study of Aisha, but nothing on Khadija. So it's quite amazing that even women chose to write, feminists, I would say, Western feminists chose to write about Aisha rather than Khadija. Yes?
Could it be because of lack of, sufficient historical material on Khadija? Because Khadija sort of occupied the first 40 years of the Prophet's life, which in many ways were less interesting because Islam as a religion was not there. I mean, it was there in the background. But after that, since Islam became a religion and became a symbol of the community, Aisha then played a very important role during wars, in propagation of religion, and so on and so forth. So I'm just wondering, could that be one of the reasons why?
Well, it's interesting. Your comment shows what we find interesting.
Yeah.
Scandal.
And wars.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Whereas every author, there are now some, so the biography of Khadija starts in the 20th century, and we slowly are saying in the Muslim language, in Muslim languages, I think the first one might have been in Urdu. And then we have one now, which is all sort of, people are nothing definitive as such, but they're now starting to come. And they recognize, what they're saying is that Islam is the existence of Islam is indebted to Khadija.
Yep.
If there had been no Khadija, there would have been no Islam. We can't say that about Aisha or any other wife.
That's right.
And we see that, and there's one guy, and he says, I'm surprised that nothing has been written about Khadija, and she is the benefactress of Islam. And in fact, she has the title, which nobody else has. And maybe just in giving the title, people, said everything. Khadijatul Kubra, the Great. None of the other companions or wives has that title. Al-Kubra, which is really, Khadijatul Kubra is her title. And so now we see the biographies of Khadija. And it's very interesting. I think in the 21st century, we're seeing sort of popular literature on Khadija coming out. First of all, it's being translated from one Muslim language to another, from Arabic to other Muslim languages. And maybe eventually there'll be some English translations. There's lots being written. There's a biography in the Malay Bahasa, Indonesia, and it's called Khadija I think it's Khadija the businesswoman. Little pamphlets, that kinds of things. So it shows that here are women here, they are interested in the role of a businesswoman, financially independent. So now Khadija is rising. Yes?
No, I just wanted to point out that our Ani has written and composed a song on Khadija.
Okay.
Yeah, I was about to say that. I actually wrote a song about Khadija from the perspective of a businesswoman, a financier,
Yes.
and precisely without her, Islam would not have survived.
No, it would not have happened. So here, if I want to, if you would allow me some imagination and give me some, in Urdu we'd say Jan ki aman, if you would promise to not kill me.